This is CNN.
Anticipation growing at the Garden. The start of the Democratic convention only hours away. High waters in Ohio, severe flooding and tornadoes have residents on the run. And food industry lobbyists trying to trash a recycling movement in Massachusetts.
This is Newsday with Susan Rook at the Democratic National Convention in New York and Sharyl Atkisson at CNN Center in Atlanta.
Welcome from New York for Newsday. Years of planning and long months of campaigning come together 3 hours from now here at Madison Square Garden. Day one of the Democratic National Convention. And on the edge of this big political show, a flurry of publicity today about whether one major Democrat may bolt the party and join forces with still unannounced independent presidential candidate Ross Perot. At the center, Virginia's Governor Douglas Wilder, the nation's only black governor. Wilder's press secretary, Glenn Davidson, says third parties for Perot and the governor have held numerous discussions, including talks last night about Wilder's interest in becoming Perot's running mate. But Davidson told CNN's Charles Feldman there's been no offer for the number 2 spot and no direct discussions between Perot and Wilder.
I can say categorically that nothing has been offered, so it would be difficult to either accept or reject something that has not been offered.
Nothing has been offered. Has there been discussions about Wilder being on a Perot ticket?
No one has spoken to the governor about that.
Perot's campaign chairman Tom Luce says there's no short list yet of possible running mates, adding, quote, "We have a great deal of respect for Governor Wilder. We expect a shorter list by the end of the month." Wilder has not endorsed the Clinton-Gore ticket. He is in New York, but there's confusion even about whether Wilder will address the convention. Davidson says Wilder has decided against speaking because the Democratic Party never confirmed when he would speak. But the Democratic National Committee says Wilder is on the program for Thursday. Jerry Brown still hasn't jumped on the Clinton-Gore bandwagon, and he says the Democratic band will have to start sounding his tune before he decides to play along. During an interview with CNN this morning, the Democratic candidate said endorsing Clinton without the changes he wants in the platform won't help Clinton or the party.
You can't just take a verbal fig leaf and say, okay, there it is, we're on board, and you've got 4 million people who voted against the establishment, who felt there's great corruption in the entire political process, that the system has somehow left them. And I don't want to break faith with those people who voted for me against tremendous odds. And that's why I've asked the Clinton campaign to take a look at things that the majority of Americans want.
Clinton aides say they plan to meet with officials from the Brown campaign today to discuss the party platform. Democratic Party Chairman Ron Brown is urging the former California governor to back Clinton as a show of unity. The DNC chairman says Brown has to endorse the ticket if he wants to address the convention.
We've got no desire to bar Jerry Brown from Madison Square Garden. That certainly is not our objective. Our objective is to have him a full participant in the process and to have him fully involved not only in the convention but in the fall campaign. Well, yes. I don't expect he will speak right now. At present, there are no plans for Jerry Brown to speak. That might change between now and the end of the convention.
Jerry Brown says he is entitled to address the convention no matter what party officials say. Well, Bill Clinton took a little time off today from polishing his acceptance speech to make the rounds in the convention host city. After a morning jog, the Arkansas governor stopped by a youth center and housing shelter in Manhattan, where he stressed his own poor upbringing. At a community meeting outside an arts center later, it was a case of Clinton taking what he calls his putting people first plan straight to the people. He was asked where he'll get the money to pay for his programs.
We're going to get the money by cutting inflation and health care costs. Health care is going up at 11-12% a year. We're going to bring that back in line with inflation, bring it down to 5 or 6%. We're going to get that money by raising taxes on wealthy Americans whose incomes are over $200,000 a year, who's not because I'm against wealthy Americans. I'd like to be wealthy myself someday. But because for the last 12 years, the wealthiest people in our country had their incomes go up and their taxes lowered. Most people had their incomes go down and their taxes went up. So the wealthy have to pay their fair share again. That's where we're going to get the money.
Clinton will appear tonight on CNN. That live interview is set to begin about 6 p.m. Well, the #2 man on the Democratic ticket went after the Jewish vote today. About 3 hours ago, Senator Al Gore addressed the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee. Clinton's running mate was up and running early this morning after appearances on the morning TV talk shows. Gore addressed one of his pet issues during a speech to the New York League of Conservation Voters, the environment.
Are we content as a nation to allow the children of this country to harbor a feeling in their hearts that their elders don't care enough about their future to stop the rape and pillage of the environment of this country and the Earth's environment?
Gore will appear on CNN tonight for a live interview. It is set to begin about 9 p.m. Eastern. While the last-minute preparations have been echoing literally through this cavernous arena behind me this morning, CNN's Bob Franken is on the convention floor to set the scene before the opening gavel falls. Bob?
Well, Susan, right now, as you said it's quite cavernous. That is to say, it's quite empty. And in just about 3 hours, the joint is going to be jumping. Madison Square Garden is going to be full of all the delegates, which is why all the show is being held. On the stage right now, we have various people going through their impromptu walkthroughs for tonight. As a matter of fact, it's hardly impromptu. The Democrats intend to put on a very high technocratic kind of show. Probably the biggest star of this show will be the video wall, 56 television monitors. You can see them now. There are stars being displayed on just about all of the 56 monitors. They're going to be going through the various singing and performances that are going to be done. They're going to be displaying the cross-section of delegates all across the country. As for the actual program tonight, we're going to be hearing keynote speeches, and we should hear some stem winders from Senator Bill Bradley, Democrat of New Jersey, Georgia Governor Zell Miller, and former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, who of course usually brings down the House when she delivers her convention address. Right now, we're looking at a little rehearsal right now. We're hearing from Reggie Jackson singing. This is a young man from South Carolina who met Governor Clinton during the campaign. Let's listen.
Justice.
Great, Reggie. Go. Applause, applause. Take your time, Reggie. There's applause, applause, applause. Take it. And now you...
And you can expect tonight that applause will be magnified thousands of times. It'll be thunderous. They're putting on a very tight show here tonight because they realize that all the suspense is gone, and there's a lot of concern that even the desire for a convention might be gone this time. Part of the show, of course, is occurring outside Madison Square Garden, and there we have CNN's Brian Jenkins. Brian?
Well, Bob, we're standing out with a stiff breeze blowing across Midtown Manhattan. We're at 33rd Street and 7th Avenue. It may feel like the Windy City today, but look around you. You know it's the Big Apple. We have a gentleman here who's turned out in patriotic regalia today. You're dressed for the convention. Your name, sir?
Monkey Man.
Monkey Man.
And this is Mazel Tov.
And Mazel Tov. Why do I feel I'm doing an Abbott Costello routine here? What is your purpose being here this week?
I just came on behalf of the Republican Party. I wanted to make sure that they really meant what they said when they said this was going to turn into a political circus. And it wouldn't have been a circus without a monkey, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? And to my friends out in Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, how you doing? I'm still alive. How you doing?
Truly an international event. Johnny Carson, eat your heart out. We have a couple of ladies here who have come down from upstate New York, from New Paltz, New York. Three ladies here, Kathy, Jessie, Robin, and Elena, who is a New Yorker. They have joined forces today, and what was the purpose of your trip down here?
We came to defend the clinics against Operation Rescue. We're all members of the Radical Women's Action Team in New Paltz.
When you say clinics, you mean abortion clinics here in New York?
Yep.
And what has transpired so far?
Well, they're milling about, and they hit a few places, but they didn't get in.
So we have not seen the kind of action here that we saw in Buffalo, New York a few months ago.
A lot of people around defending the clinics, and I think they're not coming because of that.
We really need these people
a
who
lot
come
of
out
people.
every day. Even if you can give 1 hour, show up, call the Clinic Defense Hotline, and find out where you want to go.
By talking to you ladies, of course, we are not endorsing your position or your activities this week. We're simply interested in what's been going on, and there are a number of protests around the city. Elena, do you feel that any one protest is being overshadowed by all the others?
I think that what's really happening is that the media is underrepresenting the amount of people that have come out to speak out for pro-choice. There was a clinic blockade last Saturday, and there were actually almost 3,000 people representing pro-choice, and the media reported only 350, so we're pretty upset about that.
Well, we'll be out covering many of the protests going on this week, a large AIDS march to Times Square tomorrow. We expect more action at the abortion clinics around New York as the week goes on. I heard you singing your theme song earlier. Would you give us a few bars of that before we sign off here?
Should we do If I Had a Choice then?
Okay. If I had a choice, I'd use it in the morning, I'd use it in the evening, all over this land.
Again, CNN does not endorse any political message here. We're simply trying to bring you some of the flavor of what's being said and heard out on the streets today. Signing off from outside Madison Square Garden, I'm Brian Jenkins. Back to Bob Franken.
Brian, thank you very much. We will have convention updates throughout the afternoon leading up to tonight's convention kickoff. Joining me for an interview at the bottom of the hour will be former Vice President Walter Mondale. And now back to Sharyl Atkisson in Atlanta. Sharyl?
Susan, thank you. While the political spotlight shines on New York, President Bush is getting in a little R&R. He's been hitting golf balls instead of bashing Democrats. The president is at his summer home. He'll go to the All-Star game in San Diego tomorrow, just before heading out to James Baker's ranch in Wyoming. Ross Perot is keeping a relatively low profile this week. Aides say the undeclared candidate is busy putting finishing touches on his economic plan. Still to come on Newsday, some Ohio residents are finding it tough to navigate as heavy rain turns streets into rivers. The little train that couldn't is headed back east. The train, which is loaded down with 200 tons of New York City garbage, is reportedly bound for New Jersey after 3 Midwestern states refused to allow it to dump its smelly load. The Garbage Express has been on the rails for the past 2 weeks. Owners of the trash will not confirm that New Jersey is the new destination. They'll only say the train will arrive at its dump site tomorrow night. A plan to trim... People in Columbus, Ohio are trying to navigate flooded roads today. In parts of the city, the best way to get around was by boat. Up to 6 inches of rain fell overnight, turning roads into waterways. The storm also injured at least 7 people in Ohio and knocked out power to about 20,000 people. In Clearwater, Florida, residents were frightened by the sighting of a tornado. Pictures of the twister were captured on videotape by an amateur cameraman. Nobody was hurt, no homes were destroyed. Here's Flip Spiceland with the complete weather outlook. Flip?
Cheryl, flood warnings are still in effect for a large portion of Ohio. There is still some rain in Ohio, but it is not raining in the flood-ravaged areas of central Ohio. Now back to Cheryl.
Flip, still to come, getting back to nature in a big way. Parents passing on the survival skills of their ancestors. Hungry children get a helping hand in Florida. And he was on the winning ticket back in '76. A conversation with Walter Mondale and his insights into the '92 convention when we come back.
Newsday continues, followed by International Hour after this local commercial break here on CNN.
And those who run America like a private club. Dependency